as I started to grow up, my parents kind of told me, you know, what happened, and because I started questioning, why was I in special ed classes, and why did I have classes that seemed so different from regular classes.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of What Autism Feels Like. This podcast is all about going beneath the surface and beyond the diagnosis and the stereotypes to truly understand the experiences of individuals and families with autism. And our wonderful and beautiful guest today is Pastiche. She is an incredible human being, and she is. Yes, you are. And she is working on something very special, a children's book for children with autism. And I'm so happy that she is here to share her story and her journey with all of us today. Welcome to the show, Pastiche.
Thank you, Ha, for having me. It's such an honor to really be here and to give my some sort of expertise and advice, as I am still also learning about myself as an autistic individual myself, because like everyone says, you never stop learning. So every day that I get is a chance to have growth within my own experience, and personally from autism and autistic experience. So I'm excited to do this.
Yay, that is such a beautiful introduction.
Thank you.
So why don't we start by getting to know you a little bit? I know you a little bit, but not the audience,
Right, right.
right? So can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What are you working on, and what are you passionate about?
Yeah, so hi everybody. My name is Pastiche Graham. I am 29 years old. I'm an adult on the autism spectrum, and I prefer to be known as an autistic person because, again, each autistic individual has their own personal preference at the end of the day, whether we are advocating or whether we're working on something to advocate for the public. But there's that for that part. So I've been working on a children's book. And I'm not sure if it's an appropriate time to reveal the title yet. So I am going to keep that sacred for now. You know, I'm going to keep this confidential, 100 confidential, until it's ready to be known. So until then, I will keep that part of it on hold. But what I will express with the details of the story is that it is a book on autism inclusivity in the workplace. And it's about an autistic girl that is based off of my experience working for Rita's Italian Ice and Frozen Custard. And it is also a children's book where this little girl ends up working for a popcorn place, and she comes to find that she does belong in the big business. So this is a book that not only is representing autism and autistic individuals as a whole, but the goal is with my story or series is to shine a new light on autistic girls who become autistic women. So, more details about the entire story will be coming back to you guys shortly.
I'm excited too. I can't wait to read the book. I will be the first one to buy your book.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll get that book to all of my girl clients. I'm sure they'll love the story.
Absolutely. And another fun fact is that about 3 years ago, this book process became about when I was unexpectedly featured on a CBS TV show called Undercover Boss, and you can watch it everywhere now, from Paramount Plus to Hulu. It's season 11, episode 4, and all you have to do is search Rita's Ice and Frozen Custard, and you'll see me as an employee who was teaching the undercover boss how I was running their franchise. So go check it out.
I will for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Now I want you to take us back a little bit because a lot of people, including me, are not aware or don't truly understand what is it like growing up with autism. So can you share with us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So autism. Okay. So growing up, I think growing up as an autistic girl who has flourished to become an autistic woman, as I've looked back on my experience, I think I've come to understand that each autistic individual has a different experience, but also lives in a different world. So one experience may look like, for example, with me, in terms of how, the diagnostic world, words it, high functioning autism, and because we can high functionally be independent for ourselves. So therefore, we may not need too much help, but we need some help. Whereas on the others, in another world, an autistic person may be seen as a low functioning autistic person who may have to have greater support than the autistic person who lives in a world where they are able to completely be on their own with just a minimal of support. And I think the problem with that is that just because an autistic individual like myself is able to live on their own one day and be able to get married or whatever should happen, that doesn't mean I'm less important for help. Like, it is okay. I want to express to people today that whether you're able to be independent or not, everybody needs help. I want to normalize that right now. Like, everybody needs help. And I have come to learn that even as someone who is autistic and is able to live on their own, is able to cook, pay their bills, etc., and able to functionally communicate the way I am right now, I still need help. It doesn't. I think needing help doesn't stop me from being independent, and I think that with autistic people living in a completely different world where they are going to need 24/7 support, that also doesn't mean for them that they're less important either, of at least having some sort of independence of theirs as well. It's just on their end of the world, it is more likely that they will need, around the clock care, and that's okay. I just don't think that autism is a competition, is a competition to see who gets to live on their own and who won't get to live on their own. I think that we need to I think we need to break that kind of habit and break the notion of that too, where people believe that because, there's autistic adults that may live in completely different worlds. That doesn't mean we can't, there's some things that just can't collide, and that's not true. And I want all of us, me and every last other autistic person listening to this or parent listening to this, that we can all thrive in the same way, but different ways. So it's just that some of us are just going to have to live differently, and that's okay. So I think with me, growing up as an autistic individual, I try to be humble about it because it's just so important to know where you come from. And it's so important to know that whenever you're talking to somebody about growing up, it's important to be realistic about it. So I would say growing up for me was very hard, in terms of trying to foresee the future in terms of me, am I going to be able to live on my own someday? Like, it really becomes questionable once you start realizing that you are an autistic person, and you start to be in suspicion all the time. And then once you get into that mindset of always suspecting your life, questioning about your future, then you feel like autism is the reason that it's stopped, it's over. Like, autism is the reason that my future is over. And I want to give parents, or whoever's listening to this, hope today that autism doesn't not necessarily make somebody's life over. It never does. It's just you just have to find ways to make life more adaptable for your kid or for yourself. And I've come to terms that I can, I'm an autistic adult. This is who I am, but this is a lifelong neurodevelopmental or neurodivergent difference, that I've chosen to accept. So you know what? From there, I'm gonna use it to my advantage, and I'm gonna use it for good to help people, you know, come out the closet like in that way. So, and I don't think that it should be shameful to talk about the realistic things that people often tend to hide. So that's the goal.
It's such a beautiful thought. I love your attitude.
Thank
And I
you.
mean, coming from you, it is so special too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, when were you diagnosed it, and when did you know that you are on the spectrum? Like, when did your parents tell you?
Yeah. Okay. So my parents told me, because this is when I was diagnosed, to see my child psychologist. I would have been way too young to understand. So as I started to grow up, my parents kind of told me, what happened. And because I started questioning, why was I in special ed classes, and why did I have classes that seemed so different from regular classes, where there was so much kids in the class, and it was just one full class. Like, why did my class seem so off? I guess, like, when I was growing up, it seemed very off-putting to me, because it made me question me about me. So my parents started telling me about a little bit about myself a little bit. And so I kind of sat down with them a little bit, and I told them, like, and I started asking them, well, Mom and Dad, when did I get diagnosed? Like, when did I actually get diagnosed with autism, or when did I receive my autism diagnosis? Is how I now would say, or when did I receive my autism diagnosis, instead of when did I get diagnosed with autism. But anyways, my parents told me around 4 and 5 is when the child psychologist ended up diagnosing me, because a lot of the signs at the time did scream autism. And one of them that really appeared to my parents a lot often was the echolalia, which that is a form of repetition words and phrases, even large sentences. There's some things like I didn't like to be held a lot when I was little. And my speech, I feel like the speech did have some delays in it. So a lot of the time, like when my parents had a conversation or somebody had a conversation with whoever it was, I would repeat that exact same thing right back to them. And thankfully, my aunt, um, my aunt's sister, because she at the time she she really picked up on the signs of autism, and she kind of saved me from going through life undiagnosed, in that humbling particular way. I think a lot of the things that my aunt pointed out to my parents led my parents to go get me tested. And but I think a lot of the superhero kind, like, telling my parent, expressing to my parents, hey, you might want to go get your daughter tested for autism, because I really think she might have it, because she was really keening in. I guess at the time she was really keening in on the signs and what was really going on. And so a lot of that superhero advocacy came from my dad's sister, which is my aunt. So I really thank her for doing that. And I thank my parents too for even just deciding to take me to go get tested, because I think even without my parents doing that, I think today, if for whatever reason, I don't know what my life would have been like if it weren't for my parents doing, being proactive to go do that, and my aunt for spotting that. So I thank my family for doing that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I mean, back then too, I can't imagine. I felt like back then autism was still very new. So even for the
Right.
parents to hear from somebody that, oh, your kid might be on the spectrum, it might be a scary thing.
Right, exactly. And even at the time when I was born and everything like that, and starting off with life and everything, things like that, like even around 3 to 4, 5 years old, I was still starting off with life. So when I was diagnosed, I believe, anybody can politely correct me if I'm wrong, but I personally believe like that was the time period when autism was starting to become more talked about. And because I was born 95, so I think around that time, autism was starting to become more commonly talked about. But I think now we're in 2025, and now it's just everywhere. Now autism is just being blown up left and right. And now we're this is like the big topic now, and now everybody is starting to question themselves and being more aware. But to to give little personal insight about, as far as just me personally, growing up as an autistic girl, and starting to realizing, after my parents told me, about why I was in special ed and why I was getting IEPs at parent teacher conferences and things of that nature. That's when I basically realized that I live in a different world from all the other kids that were going to school. So I always ended up getting IEPs from my teachers and things, parent teacher conferences. And I wanted to express to parents too at the moment here as well that getting an IEP for your kid, or getting an IEP for your kid is never a bad thing. If anything, it helps the child flourish and get better so they can actually, have these things to flourish into their next opportunity. And I think that's what, and looking back, that's what my IEPs ended up doing for me. It ended up making me realize that I don't think IEPs were to necessarily give my parents a bad view of my autism, but I think that now that I'm looking back, IEPs were designed for me specifically as an autistic individual to understand that an IEP is actually supposed to have made me thrive more. And I don't look at it as my parents having, or anybody having a worse off view about autism, because I don't think an IEP is equal to, oh, my kids is just not gonna succeed anymore because of their autism, or we need to find ways to, we need to find ways to get rid of autism because an IEP made me have a different view of my kid. So I just want to express with empathy right now that I get where you're kind of coming from in terms of why you would be kind of and even for kids, that are in my shoes now that are trying to get an IEP. I can kind of see where the apprehensiveness and in the whole conclusion of an IEP in autism, with all that being jammed together like that, can come from. So I just don't want parents to think that because their kid has to have an IEP that it's basically the end of the world or something. Or I don't want especially I don't want the autistic kid, for who I was in that position before, to believe that because, I don't want them growing up thinking because I had an IEP, it just means that I'm worthless for opportunities, and or it's going to make me have much more of a negative view about how autism is going to impact my life next. And I just don't, I just feel for everybody that is probably going through that, or that could be going through that. So
working in the field, I do see how much meaningful an IEP plan for a child with autism. It just gives them so much accommodations. And I mean, if accommodations can give them the self-confidence they need to thrive, right? Then
absolutely.
why is it a bad thing?
I don't think I'm sorry, I don't know, but I don't think it's, and I'm sorry for like messing up the question, but I don't think IEPs are a bad thing. I really don't. Now that I look back, I don't think they were a bad thing. I don't think that they were to like they want to like come get you. Like I felt like growing up, like an IEP was out there to get me, and like to get to get me in my life. Like oh, an IEP just means that it's just gonna halt your opportunities after high school or after middle school or after who knows. However, but I really just think that an IEP would really benefit all kids that are in my position, um, that that need it. I think that an IEP, I think I think definitely I think now furthers you know what you need. I think it furthers what you need in order to succeed. So
You mentioned echolalia and speech delay, and sensitive to touches. I want to mention about those because I worked with clients who have all of these symptoms. So, and by talking with you, I know that you don't have the echolalia anymore. You grew out of it.
So I actually still have it.
You do? Oh.
I do. I no, it's okay cuz I know like there's things, and this is a good time to talk about this too actually. So I know like when people say like, oh, once the autistic child gets older, they grow out of certain things that doesn't make them like it doesn't make them autistic anymore, or it doesn't like or it doesn't, autism doesn't like necessarily go to that certain, activity that they once did when they were little. And I come personally to find out that that is actually not true. I think for me, I still do the ukulele. My parents actually catch me doing it still, and I still do it with peers and everybody around me, and they've noticed that when I constantly say funny words or say things that I constantly repeat over and over and over, that's just my way of that's just still my way of communicating. And I've noticed that a lot of the time I still do the things I used to do. It's just I'm an adult now. So I'm in an let me rephrase that. I'm still an autist. It's just I'm an autistic adult now. So there's times where I know I need to be an adult in certain places like my job, where I work at, and other public places where I feel like I need to kind of set that aside a little bit. And and as an autistic woman who was once an autistic girl, we often do this thing called camouflaging. And what that means, yep. And what that means is, yes, I will say this, yes, autistic boys and men do mask as well, but it's not so, it's more common in girls and women. And here's why. When boys and men, uh, when boys and men when the autism in boys and men come out, it just comes out like it is just beyond flourish, like it just gets out of them, like they will show, like it will just show it, like the traits will definitely present itself a lot faster with girls and women, because ours is more internalized as like anxiety and as like and things that that still resonates with autism, but ours is just more hidden, kind of like we tend to, well, first I want to say autism is hidden in all in all genders, whether, it's autism or something, or something else. But I'm just saying, like, it's just girls and autistic women. We tend to kind of more, we tend, I guess we act a lot more normal to people than boys and men do. And there, I feel like there's this gap, this gender gap of who seems more autistic than who. And um and a lot of that, I feel like, kind of collides with what we're talking about, like the growing out of autism and growing into autism, how people have heard people say it. I think that I I do believe that I think us girls and women are more likely to be told, we're like, blandly from people, we're just not autistic, because we don't make the signs as a parent as boys and men do. And that's what the problem is. The problem is, I mean, we didn't grow out of autism. It's just that we we are just better at hiding than boys and men are. So I hope that makes sense. I just hope this makes sense, because as an autistic person herself, and as a woman herself, being on the spectrum, um, it I do get told a lot that, and even sometimes just blandly out of people, that you just cannot be autistic because you don't show signs like my son does, or you don't, your traits don't coordinate with how autism is supposed to be. And I will say, it does hurt. It does hurt. But I try to brush that off, because maybe they're still learning. And like we've talked about, I think it was about 2 weeks ago or something like that, that we never stop learning, and we want to keep learning. So this is a never ending learning cycle, and we're going to keep it that way, because there's always something new coming up. Something always something will always be updated from somewhere by researchers or things of that nature. And I just want to let everybody know that you don't grow out of autism, you just grow up. But you just grow up differently. So the traits are still there. Maybe it's just not as apparent as it once was when you were little, but you don't grow out of autism, you just grow up. So,
well, thank you for your clarification. You mentioned so much, and I wanted to pick each one of them to talk about it. This is fascinating. And you are the first person to mention gender in autism. What I see is that I have a lot of boy clients. I have some girl clients,
yeah.
a handful of girl clients, but I mean, their behaviors are obvious. So, but then I also have a friend, she's in her 40, and she is now starting to question whether she's on the spectrum or not, because there are things that have been bothering her. Like she can't explain like why she is different. Like the way she thinks is different. The things that bother her do not make sense.
Right.
And then she also has a sister who just found out. I mean, her sister is around my age, in my 30s. And her sister just found out that she's on the spectrum as well. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, so her whole life she has been living with autism, but she didn't know it. But then she feel like she has been masking so much. I can't imagine that though, a life, where you have to suppress all of the things that you want to do, or the things that make you a person, a human being.
Right. Yep. And what you just described is exactly why that girls and women don't get enough awareness. That's exactly why either psychologists just dismisses our assessments to in order for us to get the autism diagnosis, or they just tried and they're just blatantly come out and say, well, we don't think this is autism, we think that this is just depression. And, I've noticed too that there's a lot of misdiagnosing going around. And I think that's another reason why girls and women on the autism spectrum also go missed too, is because we're just ran over by a big yellow bus, and we just don't get that attention like boys. And I hate to say it like this, because but then again, it's like you have to express that, because there's not enough representation on girls, women, and autism at all. Like, we need more of that. So this is not me being against boys and men. Like, I am so grateful for men and boys on the autism spectrum getting awareness early on. That's great. However, we are living in a time where girls and women are still not being assessed, or we're just being dismissed. And it's just like it really disgusts me, because I think that everybody is trying to figure themselves out. And I think we definitely need to get prices of receiving a diagnosis a lot lower than what it usually is. And don't quote me on the math part, I'm not good at math, but I really do think that one of the reasons why women and girls are not getting their proper assessments, is because I really have this gut. I've always had this gut feeling that psychologists are just dismissing. They've tried, and they've said that no, this isn't autism. This is depression. This is bipolar. This is ADHD. Whatever. But I just think, again, as well, unfortunately, sexism does play a huge part in trying to get a diagnosis, and it's just stupid to me. And I think that we need to change that. I just don't think getting an autism diagnosis needs to be genderized anymore. I really don't.
Thank you for bringing the awareness to this. It's an important
Mm-hmm.
topic to talk about, and I want more people to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Masking, going back to masking. When you mentioned echolalia, and you still have it now, and you learn that when to engage in that behavior. So that means that in certain situation, you try to suppress it. I guess I don't know if that's the
Yeah, definitely. What you expressed is correct. I do have to suppress. I feel like I do especially at work. I feel like a lot of my communication skills are a little bit off still, and I feel like a lot of the time when I'm communicating with my coworkers, I think my coworkers, um, I feel like, with me being on the spectrum as an autistic woman, trying to communicate with everybody, I feel like echolalia with the repetition of words and phrases, I feel like I definitely have to suppress that at work, because I don't know what what coworkers, I don't know what their feelings are on that, like their internalized feelings on how I communicate with them. So I really can't speak for them on that. But what I can speak on my behalf is that I feel like the way I need to communicate has to kind of align with what they say, and of course that's just part of how autism presents itself at work. That's something that's just not going to go away, unfortunately, but you learn to kind of manage that a little bit. And I think when I'm at work, um, I do suppress echolalia for a little bit. I do have to put that in the back of my mind. I try to have this little thing where I think in autism as a person in my mind, and I'm thinking like, okay, you need to go put this in the back of your head for a little bit, and just try to really engage with your coworkers, and the way that I think how communication should be sound, how communication should, what communication with everybody should look like. So I really try my best to keep that in mind. It's just so hard because, when you're an autistic individual or being at work, it is all about suppressing it. It is all about trying to make sure that what you're saying to even guests or people is not scaring them, or it's not like making people feel afraid to talk to you. So it's a lot. It's even a lot just internalizing, having to come into work as an autistic individual and internalizing that, as okay, you have to be at work, you have to make sure you're not, you just got to make sure of the littlest things is not taking people off. So it's just it's a lot. There is a lot of suppression and in autism and being at work at the same time.
And what I learned too is echolalia is like a form of vocal stim. So
Mhm.
the stim is to help an individual regulate their emotions and make them feel better, balance their body and their emotions and all that. So when you suppress that behavior, you suppress a way to regulate yourself. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so I could just imagine it's a work day for you probably feels stressful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. What you said is exactly on point. I do actually, there has been a lot of days, like some days as well as even a lot of the moments in my workday, where the echolalia does help me. It does help me regulate my emotions and regulate um, the things that I'm thinking that are bothering me in the moment. But then I kind of just use echolalia to make it go away. So it really does help me get through the day. And even just by repetitiously saying to like a coworker, good job, like giving them repetition motivation, like it kind of just helps me in the moment, kind of to just regulate that too, along with what I usually do to help me. So yeah.
How about the sensitive to touch? You said that you didn't like being touched or hugged. How are you now? Do you like hugging?
So yes, so that part I would say that has died down as I've gotten older. So I will say this. So even though most of my autistic traits didn't go away, because it just doesn't, as I've said, autistic adults, as they don't lose their autistic traits, they just grow up. And one of the autism traits I will say for me that has stopped is the touch. I think when I was really little, I did not like to be hugged a lot. No, I actually didn't like being hugged at all. But as I've gotten older, I am now. I'm just now. I think the reason why I became a hugger is because of going back and realizing that a lot of the things that I've been through, I needed. I think a lot of the support that I've needed growing up. I think a lot of my experience with autism growing up has been too dark to a point where that, hey, you know what, Pastiche, maybe by starting to open up to people a little bit more, maybe about your autism, maybe you can repetitiously use that to kind of start being more open to emotional support.
So does hugging make you feel good now?
It does. Yeah, hugging definitely makes me feel good now as as a autistic person and as a person. It definitely I think hugging now brings me signals that, hey, people actually, there's somebody, or people, or just even somebody that cares, to know what you're feeling. And I've started to realize that hugs are a form of the unspoken words of saying, hey, I may not have a lot to say, but I care about you and I want to make sure that you're okay. So once I started getting, I don't know what age I've started to hug people, but I think the hugging had a lot to do with the feeling of loneliness too growing up. I feel like in certain public places, like one of them was definitely school. So I think that's where all that hugging started, was from the loneliness I was going through, and just feeling like I'm the only autistic individual on the planet that feels this way. And again, growing up, autism made me question, and made me a huge skeptic, and made me very bitter, I would say, bitter and lonely, and a big skeptic growing up. I think in my younger years, I just wasn't. I just felt like I'm not gonna have. I just don't. I'm thinking like I want to pretend for a month that I don't want to be, that I'm not gonna have autism anymore. I just want to like not talk about it. Like I wanted to basically push that to the side and just feel as if that I don't need to talk about it, because I felt like I shouldn't even express it to people about it. And I think the hugging became repetitiously a thing when I started thinking like that. So I just felt like, okay, Pastiche, let's get to somebody and hug that person so that we can, start connect, I can start building connections with other people. So,
It's a big social cue. But you're right. Hugging is a sign that somebody cares about you.
yeah.
But
Yep.
tell me, I'm
Absolutely.
curious though. Some people told me that eye contact makes their eyes hurt. So, what did hugging make you feel? How did it have any effect on your body when you were younger?
So eye contact, that still does play in a role for me as an autistic adult even today. I think the eye contact, and here's the thing, I love looking into eyes that make me feel like I'm not being judged. I can tell like when a pair of eyes are looking at me and like I'm getting and like their eyes are like trying to like squint but like laser focus, like their pair of eyes are kind of like pinpointing the things that they already don't like about me. And I think I don't think I think from my experience as an autistic individual, eye contact, it's not painful, but it does feel uncomfortable a little bit, only because that there are a pair of eyes that I know that are judging me. So it's like when I get to know, like if I see a pair of eyes, and they're caring, like they are screaming, they care. Like I will know. Like I know, like with yours, they really do express that you want to learn, and you care about your clients, and you care about everybody around you. And uh, I don't have a problem looking into yours, and I don't have an issue with that. So I think eye contact for autistic people, including myself, I'm gonna include myself in this too. It's definitely a big factor in socializing and picking up the cues. Because I can socialize, but there is a lot of social cues I do misinterpret, and I get on the emotional defensive side way too easily. And I do I do understand where the eye contact, like it's painful, like where it's coming from in that sort of uh arena. So, but for the most part, I think on my end, I think that I don't think eye contact's painful, like it's painful like that, like it's stabbing you in the face like that. But I do think I think a pair of eyes already says a lot, how they're looking at you. And like that's what it is to me. So
How about hugging? Did it hurt you? I mean,
hugging,
before.
no, hugging doesn't hurt. No,
You just didn't like it before.
I just didn't like it before. And now that I have come so far in learning about autism, and autism for me, and autism from a community perspective and things of that nature, I've come to realizing that there's a lot of autistic people that could use emotional support. And I guess like even just hugging people that want to learn and want to know about it, I think that really um, gave me hope and gave me a kind of restored my, as they like to call it, hope in humanity, that sort of thing. uh, it really restored my perspective on what a hug actually means to for in that humanity kind of way. So
Do you ever feel like you are gifted somehow, like certain areas of your life that you feel like you are very good at?
yeah, yeah, I to be humble to be humble about that. Yeah, I've come to realize that one of my I think one of the things I do have a more of a strength in than anything is the way that I give compassion, affirmative compassion to people. And I think that I've realized as I've grown up as the being that I am now, as an autistic woman in person, and just a person and just being pastiche. I think one of the strengths that I've come to realize I do have is just being there for people. It's motivational speaking. It's speaking life into people and giving them hope that, hey, things, if we're looking at a deeper perspective like that, like I think that the purpose is to restore the real meaning of autism and restore the hope that that things are going to get better in a lot of different directions. So I think that with talking about something so important like autism and other disabilities, I think that is the purpose for me. So I think that I've come to find that that is the greatest strength, is to restore the real meaning of autism, but to restore the hope, restore the compassion, restore all of that. And I'm very grateful to do that, to have a part in that. So.
Oh, you are an inspiration. Everybody would love talking with you and feeling so good when they talk with you.
Oh, thank you.
I trust that. I trust that you are good. I think that is definitely your strength, to connect with people from the heart.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So everybody says that people on the spectrum work differently and the brains process differently. So how about you? Do you feel that about you?
So yes, I do feel like my brain, the way that it looks on life like that, in such a different um like kind of a different diverged diagonal kind of way, I guess, for me. Yes, I do feel like perspective, like world life perspective, in the way that I feel to see like me getting far and succeed in that direction is very different. I feel like I need, like, I do need accommodation, like emotional, social accommodation in that direction for me to succeed like that. But I also need a lot of extra affirmative motivation. Like, I think that oftentimes I feel like I'm kind of alone in that. Like, I feel like I'm kind of alone in just trying to motivate myself, because I know at the end of the day only you can do all of that for yourself to be able to push. But it's just so nice to get that extra affirmative push from somebody. It just makes me feel good. Like, even if someone productively criticizes, like in a respectful way, not in a very cynical way, it's just nice to also hear good feedback. Like, you're doing great, Pastiche. You keep going. You know, you can get better at this, but you're doing great. Like, that's the kind of things that I think everybody would love to hear too. But since we're on the subject of autism, I think definitely for me, as far as the social and like the work aspect of it, I think that extra motivational affirmative push definitely helps.
So how about, I want to know what autism has taught you in terms of dealing with difficult situations. For example, when you are feeling overwhelmed, or you encounter somebody that is confrontational, something like that. How do you deal with this kind of situations?
I think first and foremost, I think that autism, I just want to start. I want to confirm something to everybody right now. Like, I want to say that autism didn't end my. I've come to understand um, why autism for me presents itself that the way it does. Um, and that's because I think that um, autism really has taught me uh, to really be resilient in a lot of things, but I think that um, in other things too, I think that autism just I think that autism's just taught me to never to just stop basically um just hiding the real parts uh of myself as an individual. But I also think that confrontational wise, I just can't remember a time. I mean, the only thing I can remember a time of um is when I feel like when I was at war with myself on the whole journey to acceptance, to autism acceptance. I was just really constantly at war with myself. And then it kind of somehow spread into other people. And that's kind of how I guess things just kind of started up in terms of that. But I think I guess if to answer your question, like what did autism taught me? I guess as far as dealing with difficulties and difficult people, um, is to just really express yourself, like to really express the things about autism and why it makes you do it, but but don't it kind like it's kind of like excuse it but don't excuse it kind of thing. So I don't want to I don't want to say like I can excuse autism for everything that I do to people. No, what I'm trying to say is that um what I'm trying to say is that there's things in autism that of course we're unable to control, um socially and things of that nature. And I think for the social aspect of it, um I think it's to just really express to people why it makes you do certain things that might make them upset. Um, but you don't really try to make the people around you upset. And I think when autism just happens in the moment, it just happens. And it's just something that it just happens. So there's like no definite explanation around it. But I will say, like, if an autistic person, and I see this a lot too, is that sometimes an autistic person will use their autism to hurt other people. And that's where it kind of draws the line, with how autism is just, with how I feel like autism is just being like a, like abused in that way. Like, but I think that that's where the accountability starts taking its course, is if you're using autism to hurt people or get into some sort of confrontation with people. I think that you just have to kind of step back and reflect a little bit. Um, there's just no way that I will, of course, people will find ways to excuse autism, whether it's to hurt people. But I just think for me, I think the most important thing is to is to not use autism to hurt people, to hurt anybody, to engage with somebody or engage in a certain circumstance. But there's like a fine line between using autism as, uh, oh, oh, all the words that is being said to me, it overwhelms me. Could you maybe possibly break it, extra down for me to understand it? And then there's another fine line when you're engaging with people on the media and using autism as a tool to hurt, like as a weapon to hurt people. And that's just the state that I'm in right now. So
What is one thing that you want people who might not understand about autism know?
oh man, this is where we get to the hard knocking questions. Okay. So what is the one thing that I want people who are not autistic to understand about autism? I think at this point, I just want people to stop unconsciously red hearing us. Like, I want people to stop being so unconsciously, um, okay, I better be careful what I say, but I want people to stop being unconsciously closed off when you're when an autistic person is trying to teach you something, or when an autistic person is trying to um is trying to give you a good a good source of information that would benefit you or somebody else, that you could give to somebody else. And I think that by people being unconsciously closed off, even if they think that they're listening when they're not, it is one way to still, for a group of autistic people to still have all those barriers, still have all those stereotypes. And I think that we need to, at this point, I really want to see closed off people become more open. I want to see, I don't want to see unconscious, I don't want to see unconscious closed off people anymore. I really don't. And I think that with my ability to sit here with you and your amazing audience that is listening to this right now, I think we can definitely I think we can definitely open more arms.
So how can we show you that we care and kindness?
Yeah, I think one way to actually start caring about autistic people is with me, especially. And I always express this to I'm starting to be more expressive about it now, but I also try to keep expressing it to the people I know as well, so that they can pass this information down, is to start asking questions. Like, even if it comes off as ignorant, like if you think that asking me as an autistic person a question about my experience with autism may come off as ignorant, just say it anyway. And maybe I can, when it does come off that way, I can actually interpret as, okay, this person's really trying to learn. Like, I would rather have you, for example, to ask me an ignorant question than to assume. So, and I think that's a good way to get in touch with an autistic person's mind, is that I would rather have you have me ask me an ignorant question than to just stay unconsciously closed off and assume. And that, because that's what we're trying to get rid of. That's the goal, is to really get rid of the attitudes, the nasty attitudes um, towards the overall idea of including autistic people in all places of the world. So and that's where we're at right now. We're still on square one. I feel like, even after all these years of teaching, I feel like we repetitiously have to keep preaching the same thing over and over until people listen. And I just think that we need to start getting people off of that square, and we need to start really start getting people more comfortable to ask the questions, even if it may come off ignorant like that. Um, I think it's just all about wanting to get in touch with an autistic person's mind. And I really think that if we start doing that, we're going to get better information than the way that researchers are trying to put out the information, because some of that information that's been passed on long ago is outdated. And so what we're trying, and so this is 2025 now. We have to really start getting in touch with the minds of the actual person living in the experience. So I think when people begin to do that, we're going to have a lot of better information than what has been passed on for people to understand and what they think it is.
I love that. So important for people to understand. And you are right, Pastiche. It has to be a mutual point. People from the outside of the autism world who want to help, they are trying a lot to help, but then
Right.
they live with the experiences. So how do they help? All they can work on is from the assumptions, and from the techniques from research. But I mean, not really from it. All of these didn't stem from real experiences. So we need the help of people from the inside too. And
Right.
yes, the combination of both will be great.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, even parents too. I have in the past week, I did a workshop about autism with some Vietnamese parents.
Right.
Yeah, very, very cool. But see, the thing is, people also ask me questions about how to make their children do certain things and how to stop them from engaging in certain behaviors. But then
Right.
I am here trying to tell them that there are certain behaviors that we don't need to intervene because that is just who they are, like that
Right.
is what makes them happy and makes them balanced and regulated.
Right.
So yeah, it's I think it starts with the parents too. And I really want to help parents of kids with autism to understand that we really need to consider their feelings as
Right.
beings and not
Mm-hmm.
trying to control them. You see, so that's the thing. When I became a behavior therapist, I came,
Mm-hmm.
I came in with a plan. It's like a lesson
Right.
plan that I would
Right.
this, and then my kid will be able to do this. It never worked. I felt like
Right.
the more I follow a structure,
Mm-hmm.
the further I got away from my clients. I could
Right.
never build like a good rapport. And as soon as I build somehow a rapport with them, then as soon as I introduce some kind of structure into my session, that rapport went away because now
Mm-hmm.
the mindset is making a child do something that they didn't want. So
Right, right.
So that
Yep.
was a long time ago. But now my mindset has changed, but it really has shifted from trying to control somebody to now trying to really understand somebody.
That's awesome. And I want to take the moment too to really say I really appreciate your openness, and you want to turn that unconscious closed off energy and mindset off. And I really see, and it starts with you too. It starts with ourselves too, I feel like, as well. I think that what you're doing to really show me as an autistic individual that you really want um, to 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 no longer be what you once were, and now you want to show not only to me as an autistic individual but to everybody else that is still, like I've said, on that square where we're still at square one, and everybody's got that um that systemic mindset. Like, you're showing everybody like that hey, you know what, there may be still some very previous research from back then that that may have quote unquote made sense, but I think but what can we do now that there's starting to be even more conversation on autism, and now people are now trying to figure out what even happened to them. I think that all the rise in autism nowadays, I think with the rise in autism increasing, and with you being so open and wanting to really show everybody, like, hey, you guys, we need to really take this seriously now, because it's really starting to become a big issue now. Just kind of just shows me that gives me hope that everybody is gonna start listening, not just listening, but proactively listening, and really getting on with the right information from the person that actually experiences it. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you. This is
Yeah,
great. I hope that a lot of therapists too will listen to this video. So
absolutely.
much good information here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I really hope that all the parents and child psychologists, or psychologists in general, or research, especially researchers that are behind the science of everything, and that are, trying to come up with new ways and things like that, will just take a moment to listen to what we have to say, because I think this is really important that this gets out to people. So,
Well, one of the last questions I have for you is, throughout the years, did you have any effective therapies that you felt like helped you a lot, or a specific person, or maybe a group of people that helped you throughout the years?
ooh, okay. So the therapy part, I'll start with the therapy part of it. The therapy part, I really don't really remember. As you know, I'm gonna be honest, I really don't remember. But I think as far as social groups, I think groups on Facebook, Instagram, social media groups, even just non social groups like the Aspire program, and all these things that events I go to, I think have really somehow shaped my new perspective, even for my journey, on how can how can I really look at autism now? And I think just being able to take that and say that I think that the community and all these groups that I've been in have really shaped my new perspective on what autism is for me now. I probably won't say it at the moment because I might screw it up, but I do want to say that as far as that, I think the community was my source of therapy in a lot of ways that I couldn't even imagine. And I think that my new view on autism, I believe, is a lot better than when I was younger. So, whereas autism also, uh, I felt was, as every parent's thought, it was the end of the world. It was the end of my life. Like, but I've come to realize that even though autism is will be lifelong for me, doesn't mean that it stops there, because it doesn't. So, yep. And I want to champion that to parents and everybody that watches this and thinks that, you know what? She's right. It does not end there. It keeps going. But you have to keep going too. So,
Exactly. And as you said at the very beginning of the video, we are all learning, we're all growing. And
yeah.
the world is changing too. So we are growing to adapt to the new world. So whatever you
Yep.
think the future is going to be like, probably not. It's a mystery.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. But I think what's important is that we learn to love ourselves and to love people. We love ourselves first, and then
Right.
we learn to appreciate people and to see the beauty in the world. And that's how we truly, live a beautiful life, just to focus on the beautiful things around us, focus on the present, and don't worry about the future, because who can predict the future, right?
Right. Right. Yep. Absolutely. Yep.
Wonderful. So before we wrap up, I just want to make sure that the listeners know how to support you and follow your journey, especially your book is coming out soon.
I am so excited. I'm so excited for this children's book. Not only bring world autism awareness, and hopefully we get to that point where acceptance will now be there for people, but also I'm just very excited for specifically autistic girls and women are finally going to have equal representation as boys and men. So I am so ready for that. I know this has been a long time coming, since for those who have watched the Undercover Boss episode at Rita's Italian Ice on CBS back in 2022. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who has watched and that is going to continue to watch. As I've expressed, if you want to watch the full episode, we have it there. It's on Facebook. It's on Paramount Plus. It's on Hulu. We got it everywhere at this point. So it hasn't went away yet, and it probably won't. So if you guys want to go check that out, please do so. And I will have an update for everybody soon. So.
And do you want people to follow you on Instagram or Facebook?
Both, actually, both. That would be great. So yeah, I will. I mean, can we link the
Oh, yeah,
social medias
definitely.
down below? Okay,
Mhm.
great,
I'll put the links
great.
of your Instagram and Facebook under the description of the video.
All right, great. I would love to start changing lives, and not only for them, but I want to keep going for myself too,
Mhm.
to keep changing my perspective and to grow into that. So definitely, I would love to start connecting with new people, maybe hopefully reach new opportunities in that way too. So.
Oh my God, it is so beautiful. I love it, Patish. And you know what? From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for sharing your story and your beautiful thoughts on the show today.
Mm-hmm.
It's, everything that you said, everything you mentioned, they're all important topics and not only beneficial for the autism community, but I think for all of us,
Yeah.
especially people like me who are trying to help but don't have a full pictures of what autism feels like, right?
Right. Yeah.
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 Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest lesson that came out from this video, from this talk with you is the understanding that autism is not a fixed definition. It is
Right.
so personal, so many layers of personal experiences.
Yep. Absolutely. Yes. I'm glad that you even picked up something from this entire podcast today. And this has been I think this is like my very first official autism podcast. So I am just super honored to even do this. And we will do one again. I know we
Mhm.
will.
Yes, yes.
And absolutely. And I'm glad that you took something from this today, and that's the most important to me is to just at least get something from it, so that we can start passing that knowledge down to everybody else. And
Mhm.
I think we are all smart people as long as we keep learning.
Yes, I took several things today, just not just one thing.
Yeah.
And to everybody who is listening, if you love this video, please share with your loved one, and you never know if it will help somebody in your life. Um,
Absolutely.
and don't forget to share Patish's story and also follow her journey.
Absolutely. I'm everywhere. So if you guys want to stay tuned in to find out about the release date of the story, please be sure to give me a follow, a message on Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, and TikTok, and all my other social media platforms. And we will link it down below from the video, however we do it. However we do it. But thank you guys so much for tuning in today, and for being able to just hear me out as an autistic woman that is just so super excited for the future ahead. And we'll see you guys soon.